This is the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Kendall of the notaballerina.com travel blog. Every episode, I'll share travel tales from several fellow travel lovers, and together we hope to entertain and inspire you, remind you of some of your own great travel experiences, and encourage you to hit the road again soon. Hello and welcome to episode 376 of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. It's all aboard for 2026 travels. Before I start, let me pay my respects to the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, where I live and where I'm recording this podcast on a beautiful summer's day. So, this final episode for 2025 is just a bit of a big thank you, a bit of a summary, and a bit of a, what's coming up in 2026. It has been another really fun year for the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. And, of course, regular listeners will know we hit the very exciting milestone of reaching 1 million downloads. So, that was something I'd been working towards for a while and lots of fun. So, we celebrated that in lots of ways. In fact, a few ways, including I launched some merch. You can get a t-shirt, or my favourite, I've got a hoodie that I have worn to death. Just worn it everywhere this winter just gone. So you can show the world you're listening to the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. You can get that from TeePublic. I'll link in the show notes. And I have, while I'm being grateful and marketing as well, I've had more people support the podcast financially through Substack. Thank you. Subscribers do get extra content and double the content actually at Substack. But I've got some more plans afoot for 2026. And also listeners and members of my groups get Substack for half price. You can go to notaballerina.com/half, HALF, to find that, to get that and sign up if you want. If you have some spare dollars to throw around in my direction, I am always eternally grateful because that support helps me spend more time making a great podcast for you all to enjoy. But absolutely not required. Just by listening, you are helping me incredibly. So thank you to all of you. Looking back a little bit on 2025, you might be interested to know some of the most downloaded episodes. So curiously, although I'm kind of happy about it because I think it means we're talking about it a lot, the most downloaded episode by far was episode 333 on over-tourism. It really does seem like it's something that's become sadly more common, but also more talked about, and hopefully that means we're learning better ways to deal with it as well. Some of the other popular episodes this year were episode 358 on solo travel for women. Sounds niche, but apparently it's not. Episode 371, Travel Trends for 2026, was very popular. And also episode 344 on learning languages and making mistakes. I suspect it's the mistakes that people wanted to listen to. They're my favourite bit too. Of course, most of the most downloaded episodes this year were published this year, but I'll give a special prize for the best throwback episodes. Very significantly downloaded, more than you'd expect for its age. Episode 194 from 2020 on Trans-Siberian train journeys. I can understand, though. It's a pretty cool topic. And also, way back in 2017, a lot of downloads this year for episode 51 on reverse culture shock. That's something that I know can hit really hard. So what else happened in 2025? Exciting things were I dreamt about this for so long. I finally published my 6-part series about the trip my family took to Europe. It was 40 years ago this year, obviously a very life-changing experience in many ways. So if you haven't listened to the Van Life Diaries yet on Europe 1985, you must. It was lots of fun. The best part was being able to record with my dad and have a good chat about what we remembered from all those years ago. We've also got the Thoughtful Travellers Book Club up and running again. Thank you, co-host Justin. You're a legend. We had some great chats, and we already have our first 2026 book club sorted. It's going to be awesome. It's about Iceland, which I know is not just one of my favourite places, but very popular with many listeners. And it will be with Hannah Kent. Hannah has written a fabulous memoir about her love of Iceland, which has lasted much longer than mine. She went to Iceland on a student exchange many years ago. So really, really cool. And we'll have Hannah on. So I will share the link in the show notes. It's not until late February, so you have heaps of time to get the book and read it. Actually, I highly recommend the audiobook version. Hannah reads it and her Icelandic pronunciation is absolutely divine. So what are my plans for 2026? Well, it's a special year. I will turn a significant number, and so will the Thoughtful Travel podcast. In March, I will be celebrating 10 years, a whole decade of the Thoughtful Travel podcast, and also my half century. It sounds insane. I can barely say the number 50. It's too scary. But anyway, for such significant events, I've been pondering for a while how to celebrate. I'm still not quite sure, lots of thinking to go, but to start with, there will definitely be a huge online celebration throughout March to celebrate a decade of the podcast. I do have some plans already underway for that, and I hope you'll also join me during the year for some virtual catch-ups to celebrate and just to talk all things thoughtful travel. Another project I'll have going is part of the carbon literacy and climate justice training I did earlier this year through Rise Travel Institute. I have a special project coming up for that to help more travellers be thoughtful, I suppose, about their environmental impact. I'm excited to share that in the new year. Now, in terms of my own travel plans, in a word, let's call it spontaneous. Well, and celebratory. Okay, that's 2 words. But one thing I really want to do, I actually have no plans at the moment, but I want to prioritize some trips to catch up with good friends so we can celebrate my big birthday together. I have lots of ideas, keen to return to Hong Kong and also to see more of China. And of course, to head to the east coast of Australia to catch up with friends in Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra, Brisbane. But I'm just kind of leaving things open for now. My trip to Seoul earlier this year was very spontaneous and yet one of the best trips I've had in ages. So I'm kind of embracing that approach for now. However, many podcast listeners have already got a lot of concrete travel plans for 2026. When I asked them to share, I got lots of answers. Some of you added comments in the Facebook group and others sent me recorded messages. So I wanted to share some of these now. Mia, first up though, is a bit like me, and she wrote, Tasmania early in the year, sometime. We're hopeless travel organisers, last-minute booking, always. I don't think there's anything wrong with a bit of last-minute travel. Sometimes you can get amazing deals and I don't know, so the spontaneity can be fun. I do like to kind of, be thinking about where I'll be going and what I might do, but I don't need to plan it too far in advance, so that's interesting. My good friend Tracy of UK Travel Planning Podcast has a bunch of plans and she can tell you about them herself.
Hi, Amanda. So, travel plans for 2026 so far include visiting the Philippines in February, traveling to Morocco in March, and then spending April, May, and probably June in the UK, and potentially a short trip to the Baltics as well. Past that, we have no plans for next year except maybe a rest after all of that, especially since we spent so much time traveling in 2025.
Before Tracy booked any of these things, she told me that she was going to not travel much in 2026. So she was going to have a bit of a rest. But yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure I believe her having a rest after all of that because, well, I don't know. Like me, she'll be tempted. A full-time traveller, literally, is my friend Michael of Brent and Michael Are Going Places.
Hi, Amanda. This is Michael of Brent and Michael Are Going Places. And it's interesting that you asked this question because normally we don't have our year planned out very far, but this time we do happen to be planned out all the way through almost September of next year. So right now we're in Osaka, Japan. On January 4th, we're going to Tokyo for 10 days. Then we fly back to the US where we're going to be spending 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks seeing friends and family. And that's going to include a 2-week cruise to Hawaii and back just to warm up because it's been awfully cold here in Japan. Then we are going to spend 9 weeks in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And then we're spending the summer back in the Pacific Northwest, again, seeing friends and family. And because we do like cruises, we're going to be doing 2 Alaska cruises back to back. And after that, we're going to be taking another cruise. This is a big cruise year, all the way back to Singapore, where we're going to spend a little bit of time. And then we're going to be heading over to probably Nepal and India. That part isn't quite nailed down. And then after that, I think we're going to be heading to Europe so that we can spend the holidays in Europe going to some Christmas markets and seeing some friends and family. So that's our 2026.
They are proper nomads in that they really don't spend much time at all usually. They don't have a proper home base back in their home country of the US. And I'm always curious to see where they're spending time. And another listener who sounds like they're becoming a bit nomadic is Eric, and he wrote in the Facebook group, "We're currently in Mexico and received our temporary residency visas last week. They're normally based in the US, and we'll be here until the first week of January. In March, I'm going diving in Dominica, Antigua, St. Kitts for 3 weeks. In July, we're headed to the Balkans for my vanity travel project. I turn 60 this year, and this trip will get me to 60 countries by the time I turn 60, and also 60 dives." Very cool. Then in November, back to Mexico to renew our visas and figure out where we might want to live. So a busy year. A busy year and a very cool year by the sounds of it. I look forward to hearing through the Facebook group some more of what Eric gets up to. And I do love the synchronicity of all those 60s. You might remember I probably shared earlier the episode from Barefoot Backpacker who reached 50 countries and 50 years old this year. So I don't go in for counting countries very much. Neither do these people generally, I think, but it is kind of it's a nice thing to think about. And when you're turning one of these significant ages, these things seem to matter more. I get it. My next contribution comes from my delightful book club co-host, Justin. And he actually sent this from somewhere that I have never been.
Hi, Amanda. It's your Thoughtful Travel Book Club co-host, Justin, here in, I want to say, beautiful New Caledonia to start the year off, or end the year and start the year off, but it's raining. Yeah, my plans this year are obviously I'm kicking off the new year in New Caledonia. Then in April, I've planned a big 5-week train trip from Portugal all the way back to London. So visiting a few places there I've never been to, like Andorra and Luxembourg as well. And then at the end of the year, I'm doing another photography tour with our lovely friend Lynn Gale, and that's going to be in Bhutan, which I have been to before, but this will be to the eastern region, which I haven't been to. So that's all very exciting. And I know you have had a lot of Bhutanese students over the years, so I bet you can't wait for that as much as I can't wait for that. But that's the year pretty much already planned. Not sure I'll get much else in, but look forward to hearing what other people have planned this year.
So new year in New Caledonia for Justin, and then a fair bit of chasing nature through the rest of the year, especially with his Bhutan trip, I think. Like Justin, listener Celeste is chasing nature, and she wrote, "My next trip will be a spring trip, camping in Fort Desoto, Florida, on the beach. It's on a bird migration pathway. Then on to Manatee State Park, also in Florida, which has a turquoise spring where manatees go in the winter." That sounds pretty awesome. And Simone is also chasing nature in a way. She said, "I'm heading on a trip to Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea to chase the cherry blossoms on my way to the Burma Railway for Anzac Day in April. Just a little detour." It is just a little detour, Simone, but it sounds like a very, very beautiful detour. And it sounds like you'll be having enough time across Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea to be fairly confident that somewhere you will get the cherry blossoms. They can be a little bit fickle, I know, but I'm sure that you'll cross their paths during that trip. Another listener, Cindy, has contributed her travel plans, which sounds pretty cool.
Hi, Amanda. It's Cindy. John and I are finally starting to travel again in 2026. We are so excited. We are going to Canada for a family reunion in Victoria, which is the capital of British Columbia, which I'm sure you knew. And then after that, we'll go to Montreal and then straight across to either Central America or the Galapagos Islands. Notice which country we're skipping. We are looking forward to seeing you and chatting with you and visiting you in 26. See you later.
And then someone who has not necessarily always been this organised, more like me, but has an organised friend. Barefoot Backpacker has lots and lots of plans for 2026, and as usual, they're eclectic and fascinating.
Hello, to the Barefoot Backpacker here, and I've been asked to talk about my plans for 26 for holidays. Now, some of this is because my friend Laura is far more organised than me and requires me to book things more than, I tend to book things at the very last minute, and she likes to have things sorted like 4 months in advance. So in March, me and her are going to South America. We're going to Suriname for 2 weeks. this will involve additional stays in Antigua, Guyana, and Trinidad. We are not looking at the news right now. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. We have a trip penciled in for early May, likely to somewhere like Lake Garda or Bosnia or Albania, Montenegro, or some random Greek island. We haven't quite worked that one out yet, but we know we're going. And then in September, me and her mother are going to Euro Disney for a couple of days because I've never been to a theme park. And she thinks that it's very, weird of me not to have done this in 50 years. I don't like theme parks. I don't like roller coasters. Aside from that, I've got my eye on a couple of festivals. I know there'll be a couple of city visits, but I'm not counting my work trips. And I have 2 weeks, probably in June or July, to do something on a whim. And currently, I'm either going to hike across Scotland on one of the footpaths up there, because it's very pretty, and I've been meaning to do it 2019, or I'll go to Bolivia, because I've been meaning to do that since 2012. We'll see.
It's a pretty extreme kind of travel planning when you've got a trip to little-known Suriname, but you're also going to go to Euro Disney in Paris. That's a pretty cool bunch of ideas. And I know it might not be cool to say it on the Thoughtful Travel podcast, but I have said it before. Hooray for Disney! I know you might not expect it of me, but I have a massive soft spot for Disney parks. I discussed this, I'm sure, on my Hong Kong trip report episode a little while back. It's a very nostalgic place for me, and I know Barefoot Backpacker hasn't been there before. Don't know what you're going to think about that. I'm curious to hear your report later in the year. Another busy listener is Lindley. She said, in March, 2 weeks in Tassie to play bucket list golf courses, plus ending it with a few days on Bruny Island before flying home. August, September, still putting the agenda together, but possibly weaving together South Korea, especially Jeju Island, Japan, the southern part, and Canada, the west or the east. Sounds very cool, Lindley. Lots of different ideas there in very awesome places. And some excellent plans coming up from one of my favourite long-time listeners. Big shout out to Anuj, who has been such a good supporter of the podcast over the years. And you have some cool plans too.
Hi, Amanda. Happy New Year. My plans aren't exactly for 2026 calendar year, but from April 2026 to March 2027, that's 12 months. Those 12 months are the most significant 12 months for me. And it starts with in May with the trips to Morocco and France. Later, I'll be heading to US and Canada for a very special family event for my niece. I'm also hoping to do some sports travel, especially a trip to Doha to watch Formula One tickets, provided I get it. As always, I'll be doing my annual trip to India, which I'm very grateful to my work, and they allow me to do that every year. And going to 2027 early, I'm dreaming of going to South America and Antarctica, which I'm still saving. And it's going to be pretty amazing 12 months for me for traveling.
Listener Mary Ellen also has a soft spot for India, so strong that she moved there. And her plans are this: Sri Lanka next week, then back to India. Now that I live in Jaipur, I'm enjoying getting to know this region. Rajasthan is incredible. And another listener, Lorraine, has some similar ideas. Off to India, flying in the 4th of Jan, very close. Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Goa, and hopefully in the spring, Iceland. That's a pretty big leap too. Iceland and India, that is a very, very significant contrast. I hope you enjoy them both, Lorraine. Some other listeners chimed in with brief messages. Carly is hopefully going to Egypt, Jen off to Morocco and Portugal, and Sally with a big year already booked to head to Antarctica, the Chilean fjords and New Zealand to start with, Sally said. All sounds amazing. And last contribution, last but definitely not least, some 2026 plans from my friend Vinci, who I finally got to meet in person this year. You'll recognise her voice from episode 372 about our outing to Ayutthaya in Thailand.
Over the past few years, I've been really intentional about traveling less and staying longer to reduce my carbon footprint and be more mindful of how my presence affects local residents. So in 2026, I'm going to cut down on my travel to maybe 2 big trips. I'd likely head back to Hong Kong to spend time with my parents and family, which always feels grounding. We may also take a short trip somewhere in Southeast Asia, probably back to my beloved Thailand. I was just there with Amanda in September, and it feels really special to return, see your friends, and eat some very delicious food. And then in October, I will be joining Rise Travel Institute to lead a small group on an experiential journey to India in partnership with Fernway Fair Travel. We will hike beautiful trails in the lesser traveled rural Himalayas, share meals in villagers' homes, learn traditional crafts, practice yoga in a traditional way, and connect with local families, all while supporting regenerative tourism that protects ecosystems and local livelihoods. I'm really, really excited about this trip and would love for more people to join us.
Vincey mentioned Rise's experiential journey. I'll leave a link to the details in the show notes. It'll be amazing. So, I have no idea really what my 2026 will look like, especially in terms of travel. I am just trusting that the right things will come up at the right time. And yeah, in a year's time, I'll be reporting back and telling you how it went. Of course, in the meantime, there'll be lots of new episodes. I've recorded a bunch of interviews that you haven't heard yet. So lots and lots of interesting things ahead, I promise. But mostly, thank you to all of especially my regular listeners and my Facebook and LinkedIn group members and people who chat with me on Instagram and Substack, etc. It's so lovely to know you're all out there and supporting the work that I do. Thank you. Before we sign off, thank you very much for listening to episode 376 of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast, the final one for 2025. I have a bunch of links. Do go to the show notes to check them out if you need. The show notes for this episode will be at notaballerina.com/376. I have a link to the merch to TeePublic. If you search for the Thoughtful Travel Podcast in TeePublic, you'll probably find it, but the link will get you there faster. I also have a link to the listener and group member special offer for Substack. That's an ongoing offer, so don't stress that you don't need to sign up today. But if you ever want to, there's 50% off is always available for all of you lovely people. There is a short link I can give you, which is notaballerina.com/half. I will also leave a link to the book club book, Always Home, Always Homesick by Hannah Kent, and also a link to the Facebook event for when we will be chatting with Hannah, and you can come along and ask your own questions. That's in late February. Fabulous book. If you have the slightest interest in Iceland, you will absolutely adore this book. Also leaving a link to the experiential journey to the Indian Himalayas with Rise Travel Institute, because that will be also incredible. Some of these contributions also came from fellow creative friends, so big shout out to Tracy of the UK Travel Planning Podcast at uktravelplanning.com, to Barefoot Backpacker at Travel Tales from Beyond the Brochure podcast. Just go to barefoot-backpacker.com. And Michael from Brent and Michael Are Going Places at brentandmichaelaregoingplaces.com. Please, if you aren't a member, come along and join our Facebook or LinkedIn groups for thoughtful travellers and sign up at Substack, thoughtfultravel.substack.com. Show notes, as I mentioned, notaballerina.com/376. I wish you all a fabulous, happy, healthy, very full of thoughtful travel 2026. And as always, thank you so much for listening. This has been another episode of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. Show notes and other information are at notaballerina.com/podcast. Join me again soon for another chat about why we travel. Bye for now.